Hello, David Barron here. This is the weekly, I try and do it every Saturday, and I will be doing it up for the rest of this month at least. Every Saturday at 11 o'clock Pacific time. This is, it's also 2 o'clock Eastern time, and it's the Advanced Hypnosis Skills Q&A. Now, I don't have any questions that were sent to me, but you're absolutely welcome to send me any questions that you want, and I will answer them to you. Just post them here as you're watching. I wanted to, but so if I don't have any questions, what I do get is some really, at least as interesting as I can, topics to talk about. So I'm going to talk about two, and feel free to post some questions if you have any. Oh, hey, thanks for the love. First topic is my personal experience within a cult. And in fact, I think this experience is very seminal to me, my studies in mind control. It had a dramatic and very painful impact on me and put me in a mood to write something like this. So I'm going to talk about that. I'm also going to talk about what's called the agentic state. Now, you're going to have to sort of hold on, and I will be talking about the agentic state first. And you can wait to view my personal experience within the cult. Let's talk about what the agentic state is. I have spoken about this a lot. I don't think I can speak about it really enough because it's so important to pound into everybody's head. The whole idea of the agentic state, the agentic shift, and what that is. The phrase, the agentic state, was coined by Stanley Milgram. He is the researcher who did the research on authority, what people will do just because a person says, I'm the authority, do this. And of course, his curiosity began watching in the 60s, sort of wondering why war criminals would do such incredibly terrible things and simply say, well, I was ordered to do it. So, as you may well be familiar with this experiment, he set up an experiment in which there was two volunteers and a lab researcher. Now, actually, only one person was a volunteer. The lab researcher and the other person weren't completely in on this. The volunteer came in thinking he would be randomly chosen to play a role, but he wasn't randomly chosen. He was told that he has chosen to be the tester. So his job is to test the memory of the other person who is actually secretly in on this experiment, who's referred to as the learner. And every time that the learner got something wrong, he was to administer a shock. Every time something went wrong, he was to increase the electrical shock, and he was sitting in front of a board where he would have to press a button that went anywhere from 1 to 10 to danger to double X to skull and crossbones, something like that. And the experiment was to see how far this person, the tester, would go if just a guy in a lab coat told him, please continue with the experiment. Well, what happened is contrary to what everyone expected, under the right conditions, anywhere from 60 to 80% of the people involved would go all the way up to the end, shocking this person, hearing him scream, hearing him protest in the other room that he's got a heart condition, and then going completely silent. 80% of them went all the way to the very end and assumed in that moment that they probably killed this person. And all that they had, the only encouragement they had to have was the fellow in the lab coat telling them, please continue. Your participation is essential for this experiment. Please continue with the experiment. That's all the guy had to say. Now, the lesson of that and what was trying to be measured is, what happens in the mind of these people so that they realize they can't stop. They have to do it because someone else is in control and taking responsibility of the experiment. Now, that shift, losing one's entire independence, losing their own sense of agency, and giving it to someone else is referred to as the agentic shift. Oh, hey, thanks. Appreciate the hellos. All right, let's see, who do we got here? Oh, Mark, excellent. And Heather, wonderful. So what's going to happen here? Let's see. All right, I'm just clicking some buttons here. So the agentic shift, now, you can't underestimate the power of this, nor how vulnerable you are to it. Anytime you are in the presence of someone who you perceive as an authority, and it could be someone who you just think is cool, that is an authority. That agentic shift takes place. It could be someone you admire, someone who you think is cool, or someone who perceives themselves as an authority or presents themselves as an authority. Could be someone who says they are a doctor, and all of a sudden, you perceive them as an authority. As that takes place, you start to defer to them. It is a natural process. It happens all the time, and it is one of the reasons that people have committed heinous crimes just because someone else took the lead position. So I want you to understand the quality of the agentic shift. If you have ever felt in a group, this will lead into my cult experience a little bit. If you've ever been a part of some political movement, a social movement, a religious movement, if you've been in a team that's been working on a project and you feel as though you have a sense of purpose, you start to enter into the agentic state in which everything is deferred to getting the job done. Now, this is a really good feeling. Cults use it all the time. They don't necessarily know what it is, but it is employed in cults all the time. Anytime that you are involved in a movement that has some sort of greater purpose. And again, it could be a multi-level marketing movement. It could be a political movement. It could be a social movement. It could be a nonprofit organization. It could really be anything. But anytime you feel you are involved in this and you're contributing to something greater, and again, that's the important words to understand. When you realize it, feel as though you're contributing to something greater, you are losing just a little bit of your own agency. Just be aware of it. I don't say don't do it, because quite frankly, it's a really incredible feeling to feel as though you're contributing to something bigger. In fact, understanding the agentic shift is a really powerful way of thinking in terms of developing your own life purpose. So if you think of creating for yourself a direction that you want your life to go, and you commit yourself to that direction, you have essentially created your own agentic shift, your own commitment to something greater than you. And again, it feels really good. It is self-created, so it is not something anyone else has control over, and I encourage you to not share it freely with other people. But I want you to just think about that creating your own sense of purpose, committing to it, and noticing what it's like that every decision you make is filtered through this sense of purpose. The question that you would sort of pose, the sort of filter that would be presented in your mind would be, the next thing that I do, will it help me toward my purpose, or will it just waste my time? And if you imagine that being the filter to everything that you do, everything that you say, you will find yourself heading very powerfully in the direction of your purpose. You essentially are now in an agentic state of your own creation. Okay, if you have any questions on that, please feel free. I want to, I've got a question here I'll answer from Miko here in a couple minutes, but I'm going to just sort of talk about my own experience in a cult. And so I will give you some background. This is one of those rare moments where I'm completely transparent, but what the heck. My current age, I'm 60 years old. This was quite a while ago. This was around 1983, so I was well in my 20s. And I had a friend who I considered a mentor. I admired him incredibly. And he told me that he was involved in a group that was one of these personal development groups. That's sort of the phrase that says this is a psychological cult. And he just emphasized how much it had helped him. And so I didn't even question. I was totally deferring to his authority. And I found a way to get involved in this group. The group, I will give you the name and everything. I think I've even found it on Wikipedia. The name of the organization was Lifestream, and it was in Boise, Idaho. And they are very much akin to, at the time, what was EST, another called Life Spring. EST eventually became Forum, which eventually became Landmark Education, and they're really culty as well. But the experience was, you get with a group of people and you do this thing participate as a group with a whole bunch of rules, like you have to take off your watches, you have to obey the breaks, you have to fully participate, and you do these various exercises, you share your experience afterwards. And it's initially, the first part is a 3-day, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday experience. And the initial part of this 3-day experience is warm, fuzzy, lots of, emphasis on taking personal responsibility and reassessing your decisions in the past and realizing you could have made other decisions. And then on Saturday night, it would culminate in which you did an exercise, which they call the red-black game, and I think you could find it on, just do a Google search. But essentially is you divide the group up into 2 teams. And it's really a win-lose. The only way you can win at this game is for each team to, you're given a choice. You can, I'm trying to decide the rules. Well, it's really set up so that everyone loses by making bad decisions, selfish decisions, no less. If I can find a link to it, I'll post it. But essentially what happens is the 2 teams, instead of collaborating, instead of cooperating, instead of looking at themselves as able to support each other and ultimately win, they start getting competitive and everybody loses. And the leader of this group, at that moment, just starts really getting down on everybody. He yells at them. He tells them to shut up. He says it's the worst performance they've ever seen, and to go and leave and come back tomorrow, and he's pissed off. And my experience there was like, I thought this was a good thing. What's going on? And I was devastated by the whole thing that evening. The next day, everyone is feeling wounded and vulnerable because they screwed up, and they go through essentially a hypnosis process of forgiving their past. It's a forgiveness process that's often done in hypnosis, where you find the people that hurt you, you see the world through their eyes, you forgive them, you let them go on their way, you do it to yourself. It's hugely emotional. And the whole thing ends on a Sunday afternoon with everyone on this massive emotional high. And then bringing their friends in to say how fun this was, as sort of a celebration. Friends who were not part of the group. And of course, that's just an opportunity for them to recruit more people in. Well, that's the first level. And the second level on that is just the total cult indoctrination. It involves 7 days, like 100 hours of very little sleep, doing all this confessional type stuff, doing these hypnosis exercises, just ripping out your heart and letting it be exposed. And I can't say I did very well. Essentially, I was constantly seeking approval, and as opposed to being honest, and so no one saw me as being genuine. And so I was really beat up. Eventually, it lasts 7 days. Excuse me for a second. It lasts 7 days. So, it's going to end at some point, and, everyone gets yelled at and things like that. And at the end, it's again a celebration, but, your mind is completely effed up. And I have to admit, I did not recover from that well. Because I was so hungry for approval, and because that was used to manipulate me with disapproval in such painful ways, it left me really angry. I liked being in the group, which is typical for a cult, but I also feared the next thing that would happen. And eventually that left. I left. As the years passed, only 3, 4, 5 years, I started to really think about and get angry about it, and start to think about cults in general and how they are formed. That's really sort of started my research and study, and it very sarcastically, very what's a good way of saying it? I started writing about cults in a very angry fashion, as if how to create a cult, in other words. Something like this book here. There were good things that happened out of it, but again, in that organization, if you study cults at all, it is really about an indoctrination process in which you learn to control your behaviors according to a structure that's in the cult, control the information that you take in, control your thoughts, and control your emotions. Now, they all frame this in a way of, you're learning about yourself. And I will totally admit, many people benefited from it. There were some good things I got out of it, but it was also coercive for me. So that's my personal experience in a cult, and it is very seminal to me, starting my my writing as Dantalian Jones and all this other crazy stuff. If you guys have any questions about it, I am more than happy to answer it. Now, let's go on. Miko here asked a question. I'm going to read it, and we will. Let's see. Last time I asked about the symbology method, but phrased my question poorly. Okay. I meant to ask, what would you use symbology instead of using the golden box process? To me, it would seem that symbology is best used when there is a fairly simple problem and some situation triggering an impractical negative emotional response. Okay, I think I understand the question. And that is true. They will both, actually the golden box process and the symbology process will get you the same result. The symbology process is particularly useful when you have a very specific response that needs an emotional response that needs to be changed to a better emotional response. So in that case, we're talking about anxiety, confidence, we're talking about post-traumatic stress reactions and things like that. However, you could just as easily do the golden box as well as the symbology. In fact, I do them both in one session often. So I hope that answers your question. Second question. When you can't get the golden box process to work, what do you do? A client told me that he felt going through zero felt very real for him, but his anxiety remained all the same. How should I troubleshoot this? I would do, I would probably do the symbology process first before passing through zero. And, the symbology would be converting his anxiety to a positive and very supportive emotion, whatever that would he says. Again, for me, I don't try and suggest the solution state. I say, if I can reach in your mind, take out this thing you call anxiety and put an entirely better new one in, one that would be absolutely supportive of your goals. And if you felt it, make things even better. What would that feeling be that we could put in there? And usually they'll come up with something good. I try not to suggest any one particular emotional replacement. I think that would work for you. You really do need to change their anxiety level somewhat first. Okay. Let's see, any other questions? Oh, we got 3 viewers here. Excellent. Okay. Well, every week about this time, I make a sincere effort to try to post some good information here. I'm going to ask that, I have a favor to ask of everyone here, which is, if you get a chance, I'm posting a link, and it is just an opportunity to give Google a review or criticism of Mind Control Publishing. I would love to have it because, obviously for reasons that it will certainly help my Google ranking, but I'm offering you an opportunity to be very creative. I am not demanding a great review, just an honest one. And if you want to be cynical and humorous, I love those too. And 5 stars or 1 star, it doesn't really matter. Just post something there and let me know what you think. I'm going to try and do this Saturday event every Saturday about this time. If I get some questions on the Advanced Hypnosis Skills book or Advanced Hypnosis Skills Facebook page, I will make an attempt to answer it. And of course, you can join me. End of this month, I may be taking a break for a while. There's some events that are happening on Saturday for my business that I'm going to be doing some promotion for. You'll probably see me, it just won't be at a specific time. So if you guys have any questions, please let me know. And again, thank you so much. I will be talking with you next week. Take care. Bye.